Alright guys, welcome to your tutorial for your next step in the iSearch process, which is to look at your questions again and make some decisions about what information you really need to find. So at this point, your outliner should look a lot like mine. I'm using my outliner about a trip to Greece, and so I have 4 websites here where I have done reflections and thought about the stuff on the site, but I don't have any really specific information. Your pre-note-taking worksheet, which is saved in your Google iSearch folder, should also look a lot like mine, where you have your topic, you have your outliner link right here, and then you have each of these sections filled in. And so today we are going to be looking at this column right here, looking at your questions and seeing what else we may need to add. So the first thing that we need to do is just remind ourselves about what questions we started off with. So for my example, I've got cheapest way to get to Greece, best places to go, what the climate and terrain is like, the information that I need to get a passport, and any safety concerns I should be aware of for international travel. Now, while I was doing my reflections, and hopefully while you guys were doing them too, I actually asked myself a bunch more questions. And so the first thing that I want to do is go ahead and take any extra questions that I created and put them on my pre-note-taking worksheet. So probably my questions are going to be towards the end of my reflection. So for example, I have, this makes me wonder if I should buy a full tour or if I should do individual activities. So I'm just going to copy, and I'm going to make another bullet, and I'm going to paste that there. I'm just going to change it into the format of a question. So should I buy a full tour or should I do individual activities? Okay. Should my stay be longer due to airfare? It's another question I ask myself. So I'm going to copy that and paste that in. And I'm going to look at each one of my reflections to see any questions that I ask myself. Remember that your questions may actually be in the form of a statement instead of a question. So for example, I've got, I'm now wondering if I will need to show my passport when I travel to different islands within Greece. Even though that's a sentence, it's really, I can make it a question. So I'm going to just take that sentence and I'm going to just change the format of it so that it becomes a question. So will I need to show my passport when I travel to different islands in Greece? So take a minute right now. I'm going to finish moving my questions over and look through your reflections and put any additional questions that you asked yourself during the reflecting process. Put them into this column right here, and we'll come back together in just a minute. So pause the video, do that now. Okay, so if you're back with me now, you have moved any questions that you had from your pre-note taking or from your reflections into your pre-note taking worksheet, and you should have a pretty good list of questions at this point. So we're going to head on back over to our Digo outliner, and we're going to set things up a little bit here. So I want you to, I want you to click at that empty bullet that you have. If you do not have an empty bullet, just hit enter at the start, and it will create a bullet for you right there. Once you have one bullet, go ahead and hit enter so that you have two, so that your screen looks just like mine. And we're going to go up to the very top bullet there, and we're going to type the word yellow, and then put a colon. We're going to type blue, and then put a colon and hit enter. Green, colon, enter, and pink. Okay, so make your screen look just like mine, putting those 4 colors there. And what's going to happen is each one of these colors is going to come to represent one of our questions. And what we're going to do now is we are going to see if we can create what we're going to call umbrella questions. So before we go and get started on writing questions, I want you to think about what an umbrella does. So an umbrella protects you from the rain, I'm sure you're thinking, but it does that by keeping you underneath it, right? You hold an umbrella over your head. And if you have a large enough umbrella, you can probably fit maybe a friend or two underneath that as well. So that's what we're going to try and do now. We're going to try and create questions that fit lots of information underneath them, and that's why we call them umbrella questions. None of the questions that we write in just a minute next to these colors should be able to be answered in one sentence, because that's not really an umbrella question. They should have lots of parts to them and be a little bit more difficult to answer, because these are the questions that are going to guide the rest of our research. So let me show you what I mean by that. If we come on back over to our pre-note taking worksheet, we're going to kind of do the same process in this column that we had already done once in this column. So the way that we're going to handle this is we're going to just look and see if we've got some questions that are asking generally about the same thing. So to start us off, we've got the cheapest way to get around Greece. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this by clicking up here and hitting highlight. I'm going to highlight this yellow. And then I'm going to take some time and look through and see if I have any other questions that are also asking about money stuff. So best places to visit really doesn't work. Climate and terrain really doesn't work. Passport, not really. Safety concerns, no. Buying a full tour, individual activities. That kind of has to do with money. How much airfare is going to cost, how long I should stay, has to do with money. And I think those are about it. Those are the only questions I have that really have to do with money. So now that I have my questions having to do with money, I'm going to see if I can create one big question, remember an umbrella question, that all of these things can fit underneath. So I'm going to come over to my outliner, and right beside where I put the word yellow, I'm going to write a question that has to do with all those money things. So I'm going to just write, how much money should I plan to spend on my trip to Greece? By typing this, I can fit a lot of things underneath here, right? I can, cheapest way to get there, so I can talk about airfare. I can talk about hotels, because I'm going to have to pay for hotels. I'm going to talk about food costs. So I can fit a bunch of things, and probably more if I sat and thought about it. But notice that this big umbrella fits all of these things underneath it. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to have at max 4 questions. I can only have questions up to pink. At minimum, I'm going to have 3. So I can have a yellow, blue, and green, or I can have a yellow, blue, green, and pink. So I'm going to do the next one here. Best places to go in Greece. I'm going to highlight that in blue. Let's see if I have anything else about like what I should do with my time. Let's see, climate terrain, not really. Passport, no. Safety concerns, no. Passport here. Looks like, for the most part, that blue question kind of stands on its own, and you guys might have something like this happen too. So I am going to make my blue question say, what should I do with my time in Greece? And I can still make this an umbrella question, because think about what I'm asking. I'm thinking about places to visit. I'm thinking about restaurants to eat in. I'm thinking about activities that I can do, like hiking or swimming or fishing or whatever. So even though I only have one question that really talks about the same thing, I can still think of things that go underneath that umbrella. Okay? I've got this question right here about the climate and terrain. So I'm going to highlight that one in green. It's not really very green. Let's try that. Okay? That doesn't go with passport or safety concerns, not passport here. And then I've got this question about culture. So I think that I can make those two kind of go together, because I'm going to make my green question then be, remember I've got climate and terrain and what is the culture like on the islands. I'm going to make my green question just say, what is Greece like? And under that, I'm talking about its landscape, so like the climate, the terrain, the temperature, and I'm also talking about the culture, like what I can expect from the people there. And that leaves me one last possible question. So I've got these questions about passports and international travel and what I do with my passport within Greece and how complicated international travel really is and safety in Greece. Each one of these things that I just highlighted in pink is talking about some aspect of international travel. So I'm going to make my pink question be, how do I prepare for international travel? And under that, I can look back at my questions and I can see that I need to find out passport information. I need to find out about safety concerns. And that kind of sums up what these other questions are asking also. So now I've got these nice umbrella questions where we have things stuck underneath there that we'll be able to find an answer. And your next step is going to be to find those answers, which I will explain to you in your next tutorial. So remember, as you're making your questions and listing them on Diigo, you need to make sure that they are questions that cannot be answered in one sentence. I will not be able to tell exactly how much money I should plan to spend in one sentence because I'll have to talk about how airfare, how much that costs, what my hotel accommodations might cost, how much I should plan to spend on food. Same thing with my blue, green, and pink. These are more complicated questions than just one sentence answers. Also think about as many things as you can put underneath there as well, because that's going to make your next step pretty easy. And then once you are done, your outliner should look exactly like mine, with your questions up at the top, one empty bullet separating your questions, and then your sources underneath with your reflections. And just as a quick reminder, guys, asking good questions is tough. So if this is not easy for you, you are not alone in that. Asking the right question is one of the hardest parts of research. So take your time, talk to your librarian or to your teacher if you need help, if you get stuck, but ask those good questions so you can get those good answers later.